been a lot of talk and this week finally about the Phillies. And you know what? Everybody wants to take a dump on Joe Giglio and what he's saying about the Phillies. At least he got people talking about the damn team. Because there was
what's he saying now? Can you?
Oh, you don't know?
I
what he's
haven't
saying?
heard this. No.
So Joe Giglio, I don't know what he said, but their Twitter account, and you know how that can be taken out of context. The Twitter question of the day was, "Are you putting Rob Thompson on the hot seat?" Oh, mean WIP. Ah, right? So people were all pissed off. And they're like, the Eagles just won the Super Bowl. Why are we going into the season with this attitude? And yesterday, Joe said that he's going to personally hold the Phillies accountable every game, every week, every month. I'm paraphrasing during the season. And like I had retweeted it and say, that sounds like a lot of fun. But at least it got us talking about the season. It did. Because now you have Phillies defenders that are coming out and being like, why are we being so negative? Like, this is a really good Phillies team. And I'll say this to everybody wagging their finger at Joe Giglio and everybody else right now. Do you really feel good about this team outside of the canned responses of, well, look at their starting rotation? Well, they still have a veteran lineup. It's a very good lineup, which, by the way, are true. But to me, I wonder, is this a chemistry issue? Are these guys just spooked when it comes to better pitching? Because baseball's so mental, dude. Like, what I saw wasn't the Mets being a better team than the Phillies. It's that the Phillies weren't playing well. They didn't play well the whole second half of the season. They're talented enough to do it.
Right.
So I have real questions about it too. And I don't feel bad because I'm not going in the season skipping down the lane.
Well, I think you need to be a little bit more positive. How many times has someone said that to you in your life?
A lot.
A lot.
But I can say I think they win 90 plus games.
Yeah.
But also I don't know. I don't know. I'm worried that were you down at spring training?
I did not go this year.
But you were paying attention.
Yeah.
I was paying attention. Did it seem like there was a confident group down there? Were they loose? Were they being like, yeah, like, listen, disappointing end of the year, but like we're ready to go?
Workman-like. It just seemed like a very basic spring training, like get us to the regular season. We know what the issues are. We're going to try to fix them as we go here.
I don't like that.
What do you want to see? You want to see guys doing backflips?
No,
hooray, hurrah?
no. I want to see a mission and a common goal of.
But I think everybody knows what the common goal is. It doesn't really have to be spoken at this.
But do they believe it?
Time.
So listen, Alec.
Well,
Bohm,
that I don't know.
Alec Bohm got shopped for good reason. He was obviously a chemistry issue in the clubhouse. Would you agree with that? I mean, like he comes back after not being traded. And
I can't speak to like the day to day, but I know that I saw him, and especially toward the end of the year, he was sullen. He was miserable. It did not look like he was having much fun.
Well, I can tell you based on the people that I talked to that not that he's a bad guy, not that guys didn't like him, but if people are talking behind your back because of the way you're acting and acting like that's a problem.
Yeah, you can weigh on a team.
That's a problem. So like, I'm not telling you he can't change. I'm just like, I'm trying to figure out what the hell happened against the Diamondbacks. To me, that was an adjustment that was made and the Phillies had no answer.
Right.
But the second half of last season, they were a 500 team essentially, and it looked like that in the playoffs. So
because when you are the way the Phillies are during the regular season, it gets masked because when you're talking about it in game 107, it doesn't matter as much.
And their starting pitching is great.
When you condense it and you're going against a great team for 7 games, those issues are magnified. Are they going to be able to fix it? Nobody knows until you get to that point. I will agree. I wish that they had brought in someone that could have given them a little bit of a spark of rejuvenation. They didn't do that. Here they are. But I still think I would rather it be a fun summer where we're talking about the positives of the team than have to deal. Look, you and I grew up in an era where Phillies baseball was a disaster. I'd much rather it be this way where I go into spring and summer feeling like, all right, we got a 92-win team. That's fun. They're going to, they'll beat up on the Braves and the Mets and it'll be a fun NL East. I would much rather it be this way.
Yeah, well, of course. I the one year I did nights at WIP, the one Phillies season I did nights was a Pete McCanning year. Oh. So believe me, I know how long a baseball season can be. It's
Jeremy Hellickson opening day start.
Like they were bad, but it set him up for this.
He got two,
not
just one. He got two.
He did
not just one.
So Tyler, I think you have an idea of what I'm feeling right now, which isn't, and we've been over this many times. This is a good baseball team. Yeah. This is an excellent rotation. Like if we're talking about positives on the Phillies team, they may have the best starting rotation, if not the second or the third best.
Yes.
A little bit worried about their bullpen. I think they'll figure that out. But Tyler, I've said this a couple times now. The season starts tomorrow. We can't just say, all right, hurry up and get to the playoffs. The season's 6 months long. It doesn't work like that. Like, you do have to enjoy the season. But if I'm being honest, I sense not like the excitement isn't palpable. It doesn't mean people are being negative. It's just people have seen the same thing that I've seen the last 2 years, which has been disappointing.
Well, I think the one thing, the comp to me, the way that it feels right now is the way that 2011 felt going into that season. And I'm not going to compare the two because I think 2011 is the best Phillies team maybe to ever exist. Yeah. And
pop your head up or something so we can see you.
All right, let's see if we can do this real quick. There we go. There we go. We got the sun behind me again.
Oh, all right. I got you.
The feel heading into 2011 was that hurry up and get to the playoffs because it felt like a foregone conclusion that this team was going to be good. And maybe that was to a farther extreme because of the fact that team had World Series, like definitive World Series aspirations. Roy Halladay, Cliff Lee, the rotation was unbelievable. And I think a lot of people feel that same way where this is we talked about it yesterday, the floor is postseason. Mm-hmm. And when your floor is postseason, I think a lot of people say, does April matter? Does June matter? Does, I'll check in at the trade deadline, more consistently. And I like you said, it's a long season, but that's not a way I can't live that way because of the fact that, I want to enjoy the season.
Yeah.
Should still be a good team. Are they a championship caliber team? They could be. And that's where you and I went in the split yesterday, John, of like, will they versus could they? Mm-hmm. Will they win the World Series? I don't think they do. Could they win a World Series? Yes, they could. They're good enough to do it.
Isn't that what you want when you go into a season? Do you have a team that has the possibility
they
of
have a realistic chance, a realistic chance of winning a World Series?
That's all you can ask for. What happens during the season, we find out they're not as good as the Dodgers. Everyone knows that. And they're probably not as good as the Braves.
But why do I have to have pom-poms out to start the season and say something that I don't believe, which is that I have questions about the way they finished last year that are more than just that are not only a combination of age, the lack of diversity that's in the lineup as far as what they do, how they live and die with the long ball. Mm-hmm. Trey Turner has killed them with how cold he gets, right? Like, those are real things. And I can say that going into the season without being like, yay, Phillies, woo, let's go. Like, sorry.
You choose to live your life one way, and others choose to live it
if you're going to ask me to have the ups and downs of a season, and I remember in 2009, because doing Talking Baseball with Dutch, you're living and dying. Those years, you live and die with almost every game. Halladay's first year, the four aces when Lee came in, it was like a football game when those guys pitched.
09 was a weird year because Lidge was terrible.
Carried the
and
7
Hamels wasn't very good, and yet they still made it back.
Made the World Series.
That's how good that offense
Their
was.
offense carried the team.
Yeah.
But they won 92 games but like their offense were, remember Ibanez?
Yeah.
He was a monster.
Yeah.
Do you remember when Gonzo insinuated it's okay to have questions about Ibanez being on PEDs? He's the only guy that had balls to say it. And like, he didn't accuse him at all. I thought he handled it really, really well.
I don't remember
because, listen, he was 30. How old was he? 38?
He was like 39, at the end of
And he was putting up career numbers?
Yeah, he was.
What do you think was going on? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know anything firsthand. Like, after living the steroid era, how would you at least not suspect that was a possibility? But not to make that a topic. But their offense was awesome. Howard was still prime Howard.
Yep.
Chase Utley. Chase had the World Series in New York where he was smashing home runs.
Yeah, it was amazing.
It was amazing. Anyway, so like,
come on. Be a little more positive. It's not going to kill you.
Not today. No, because it's not me, because I'm fine. I'm perfectly fine with my attitude towards the Phillies and how I will follow and be a fan of the Phillies. It's all the people out there that are like, we just won the Super Bowl, be happy. Oh, shut up. It's a separate entity. It
doesn't have to be. Why can't you just roll that into Phillies season a little bit? We're still feeling good as a city. We're on a high.
The Diamondbacks loss in the NLCS 2 years ago still stays with me. And the way they ended that second half last year is troubling. And I'm just going to say this. If they come out slow, that's a chemistry problem to me. That's guys that are like, you got to be ready to come in, and it's a long season, and it starts in March. I get it. But like you said, it's kind of business as usual. Okay, okay, I'd like to see a little spark, a little more personality, a little more attitude out of these guys. Feeling good. We'll see.
But they just don't really have that mentality anyway. I mean, who of that clubhouse you're like, that's the guy. That's the
Forbes.
spark.
He's not the spark,
but
he's the
not
guy.
He's not excitable. He's great and he's an awesome quote and all that, but not like a Lindor. We don't have that kind of
Jimmy from back in the day.
Yeah, Jimmy back in the day. We don't have that kind of
Odubel
player here. Raul Ibanez, Odubel, we're breaking them off
So,
today.
Tyler, I'm going to throw this at you. I was thinking about this yesterday. I'm a big Bryson Stott guy. I was a big Bryson Stott guy going into last year.
Me too.
And he had a first half that wasn't terrible, but I had predicted for the second half, like, you're going to forget about the first half after he's done a second half, and that didn't happen. Bryson Stott not turning in or emerging and building on what he did the year before was a huge disappointment for the Phillies. And they needed it. To your point, Stott has that kind of, he's such a baseball guy, and you love it. Bro, you need to come up and you need to be more productive. Just straight up, the lineup needs you. I feel good about Stott this year, Tyler. I don't know how you do, but still, like, this is like, here's how you win 92 games or 93 games and you win the World Series. Stott turns back into the guy that you thought he was going to turn into last year.
Yeah, I think so. The elbow injury, how real was, like, not how real was it? It was a real injury. How, like, important was it to his lack of success was true. Because you could see it. Guys just took him up the ladder in the second half of the year, and they did that in his rookie year because he doesn't swing a particularly hard bat. He's at like 67% on his average swing, velocity or whatever. Oh, I broke this down in the.
No, I think it's true. You can
went full nerd.
He's not a hard swinger.
Yeah, he doesn't swing very hard, and they just said, "Hey, we're going to take you up the ladder because you're not going to catch up to a high fastball." And the elbow didn't help that. I think if he's able to be the guy he was in 23, spread the ball to all fields. And the one thing he did really, really well in 23, didn't do well in 24, was hit with 2 strikes. He was really good with 2 strikes in 24. I think he had like 19 or 20 2-strike hits, which is crazy, especially buried deep in counts. And so if he can do that again, I think that's where you'll get the return to 2023. If you could be somewhere in between 23 and 24, that's a plus. If you could be 23, that's significant.
I think there's one guy in this lineup that if he makes like a star turn, maybe it doesn't even have to be like an all-star, but if he becomes a true everyday player, could give them that spark, it's Brandon Marsh.
Bro.
Because he's got the personality that the city knows him, loves him, the hair, the beard, the whole 9 yards. If he goes off in the first half of the season in like a, maybe not a Zach Bond type way, but where
turns into a legitimate above average.
Yes. I think that's the guy whose personality is like, rising tide lifts all shit. Like, he's that kind of guy.
Negative Johnny again.
So, John, here you go.
And by the way, he's the self-admitted biggest Brandon Marsh hater in the city.
Huge.
But you see what I'm saying? That, like, from a personality, if we're just talking about personality,
I love the guy.
Everyone on the team is like this, is flatline. Bryce, Trey, Schwarber, Castellanos, all the same. Marsh, though, is young enough and has that, like, he's a little bit different. That if he becomes a star type player, I think that he can be the spark that sort of ignites the rest.
He's not going to be that.
I'm not saying that he will be.
But you're right. I'm telling you.
Anything can happen.
I was walking around.
It was a first round pick.
I was walking around Wegmans doing a little bit of shopping before I picked up the kids. I had like 15 minutes. And I was legitimately thinking this.
Milk, eggs?
Stott hurt him last year by not emerging, and Marsh not developing into an everyday player where you don't have to worry about it. He plays every day. Hurt him last year too. He didn't take a step up. And I look at Marsh and I'm like, he's probably a platoon plus player. He's probably forward at the bats. Can he stay healthy? He's got some pop. I love him. He's a great dude.
Yeah, it's awesome.
But they need him to be a better player. And that could be the difference between it. I don't know.